Test one. Test one. Testing. 1, 2. Test 1, 2, 1, 2. Test 1. Test 1.
Hey, Hog Twins here. Check out our friend Matthew Spirit at his podcast at The DUM Show and his website. Yeah, don'tunfriendme.com. Yeah.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
What's going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Good to have everybody here. I know we were supposed to take the night off. Olivia is taking the night off. I am going to be on. It's nice to have a full screen. Usually we've got Olivia or other people on, so it's nice to kind of see the set as we made a few changes. I got a center here. Listen, my original state that I'm from is denial, for sure. State of denial, especially in today's society, especially in the country as it is today. I hope I'm coming in 5x5. If sound any weirdness, let me know. Give me a holler. This weekend, I'm going to break everything down, do some test runs, but if the sound is strange, let me know. Got my workout in, feeling good, had a productive day, got a good article written, cut a funny video of Olivia the other night. If you guys remember this reel, here it is. If you haven't seen it, enjoy this.
Wow. Joy Reid, every time I see anything, she is not there to interview people. She is there to ask you a question, to give you her opinion. She doesn't care what you've got to say.
That's right.
She doesn't care. So Joy Reid is so adamant that this is okay to be in schools. One, does she have any kids? So if not, then you don't have an opinion. So shut up. But two, okay, how about you go to the most graphic chapter and I want you to read it on your show live right now. And then you tell me.
I'd love that.
Is this appropriate for your adult audience. And if it's not appropriate for you to read it right now to your adult audience, then it's not appropriate to be in a child's school. Doesn't matter if it's elementary, middle school, or high school. You try to read this to the school boards. Yeah, of course. They try to do that to show how disgusting this is.
Gotta love it when the old wifey spanks you on your shorts. So, okay, that came out very, let's try that again. I don't think there's a way to redeem myself. That could be, you take it as you will. Shorts as in small 1 minute blurps, or shorts as in shorts. Anyway, it's good video, and it's doing very, 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 very well across the board. Seems like I'm coming in just a bit hot. So I'm going to pull it back 2 decibels. Let me know how that sounds. That should be coming in crystal clear. Sorry, folks. We messed with the sound, and years I haven't touched it, and it needed to be fixed. All right. So, state of denial. That's my usual state. But originally, I am from California. So, California, when it was Reagan, when it was a very moderate Democrat and fairly conservative state. And what helped me from being from California is I got to see a very eclectic group of political ideology from friends, family, whatever. And it always was a peak interest of mine. Like, for instance, if I took my grandfather on my mother's side and grandmother, today they would most assuredly be MAGA Trump supporters, like alt-right, completely alt-right. And my aunt and uncle, and we've lost my uncle, but my aunt, they would be Trump supporters, but very open Trump supporters, kind of like old school Republicans. And then on my father's side, my grandfather would probably be alt-right as well. I mean, he was second generation removed from Germany. By the way, Shane, congratulations on purchasing the Documents of Freedom, which is a huge success. My Lord, folks. I've had to go to Applewood Books and ask them for an extension. I bought 10 of these things. We sold out in one night. So thank you. I've got to go back to them, and I'm going to say, listen, can I order 100 and get a big discount on these things? So there'll be a commercial at the top half of the hour, which I've made for the books. And it's something that instead of me just selling everyone else's commercials, I'm going to do my own, damn it, at thedumshow.com. But anyway, thank you for purchasing it. It's a great purchase, great books. You'll love them. They're right here. You haven't seen them? It's like playing cards. We've got all 3 of them. Declaration of Independence. You get the Constitution, you get the Bill of Rights. And they're beautifully done. Anyway, we're selling those on the site, dumshow.com. We'll have an ad for it. But thank you for buying it. Shane, you just picked it up. I appreciate you. We'll make sure we get it boxed up, ready to go. Get it ordered. It'll probably go out Monday. Everybody else's will be here tomorrow, and it'll probably go out Monday too. All right. So that was kind of what I grew up with. And if we look at my grandfather, who worked for Lockheed and Martin, was an engineer, an incredible designer, an aerospace engineer who helped work on the U-2 spy plane, the B-52 Stratofortress, the SR-71, the U-2 Lockheed. I mean, this guy did it all. And yeah, he worked for Skunk Works. So he did a lot of great things. So, but a complete ass. He would totally be alt-right. So a lot of Republicans, but then my mom and dad, and I don't know, because I haven't talked to my mom in 15 years and my dad's gone, but I think they would be hesitantly Donald Trump supporters, but probably have really liked DeSantis. Probably my mom would have hated Nikki Haley because she hates women. But I look at the overall mostly conservative, but there are pockets, trust me, in my family that are absolute liberals. When it comes to my ex sister, she pretends she's cares about Republicans. She's not. She didn't give a shit. She anybody who talks about celebrities and country music she'll go ahead and roll over for. My brother is just insane in a good way, I guess, because he questions everything to a point where it just drives me crazy. We haven't spoken. My family and I don't have a lot of conversations. So either it's me or it's them. And trust me, it's them. So Olivia's family, fairly conservative. So, but either way, I have a perspective from moderate standpoint from both sides of the aisle. Now, everyone knows from a social perspective, I am absolutely liberal. Gay marriage, I don't care. You want to dress up in a dress? Don't care. You want to get married to opposite sex? I don't care. You want to march around once a year, 200 days a year and rainbow shit and be on a unicorn? I don't care. Don't care. What you do in the privacy of your own bedroom is yours. I don't want you in my bedroom, and I certainly don't want to be in yours, so keep me out of it. And the moment you decide to put me in it, or my children, or my family, or the people who I protect, now we have a problem. That's pretty much it. Fairly simple, right? So that's when it comes to socially, I think affirmative action is racist. I think it was needed for a time. And I believe that the due course of what it was intended to do is over. Just like I thought feminism was needed for a time. And now it's over. And honestly, we have really kind of eclipsed our own potential as society. And now it's really up to the common man, the individual, which is great because that's what the founding fathers wanted. Whether they were anti-federalists or federalists, we're going to talk about that tonight. They wanted the individuals to decide who they were. Because that's what a republic is. And it's a difference between a democracy and a republic. A democracy is mob rule, where the majority wins. And the republic is the individual is protected and heard at all cost. And we have found that when we vote and the way we do our votes and the way we elect our representatives, even though they're complete piles of heaping something or other, that is a representative democracy. But everything else is a republic. So that's why a lot of people get upset and say, oh, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. And honestly, it's interesting because nobody really corrects Donald Trump when he calls it a democracy. It's only Democrats. And it's almost like it's our way of reminding them to make sure that they don't forget, even though they forget regularly. Why do I bring this up? Well, it's pretty simple. Because there is another exposure to politics that I've experienced, which is not just growing up in California, but moving to a moderate state in Colorado, which is where I spent quite a bit of time in my life. And Colorado used to be moderate. It used to be very moderate. Second Amendment was absolutely stalwart. And I found myself home in politics because Boulder, Colorado was sexually liberal and socially liberal. And, you know, an amalgamation of different states all coming into Boulder. And it was kind of peace, love, dope, hippie area. And then you had more of the elitist to the Thornton and then the Ken Carroll Ranch and Highlands Ranch and down south. But the one thing is that it was fairly balanced in its declaration, in its what do we want to be known for? And fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And that's where I kind of found and cut my teeth into which type of conservative I wanted to be. And then I moved to Arizona. And that was a completely different experience. That was like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, 100% Republican. I mean, no immigrants need to get the hell out. And Arizona was very conservative. And I loved every minute of it. I love Arizona. It's not that way anymore. Then I moved to New Mexico, which, pardon my French, was a complete... I'm not going to say it. This is how I feel about New Mexico.
I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
That's about it. Liberal as liberal can be. The state doesn't know how to do a U-turn. Okay. Now, Texas Houston, Texas doesn't know how to do a U-turn either. But New Mexico is really bad. Like drive a mile and a half down the road in order to do a U-turn. That bad. Houston is just getting a turning lane for a quarter of a mile, and then you do a U-turn. But New Mexico is a pit. And essentially, it is Santa Fe, New Mexico, with the rich, uppity, uptight. Hated working at Apple in that state. Just tight ass of the month club. And then you have Albuquerque, where the good people are, the hard workers are, right? Which is interesting. But New Mexico is a complete. I'm trying not to cuss. So I'm really trying to I'm finding it very difficult. But I'm not a big fan of New Mexico. Love their green chili. Great. Love their balloons. That's about it. Okay? Great. It's a truck stop. Albuquerque, New Mexico, truck stop. That's it. You can literally drive through the entire city in 5 minutes. That's it. I-25, go right through it. You're done. Decide to get off, fill up your gas, get a little sleep, get a little handy in the shower with the local Native American prostitutes, maybe get a little hit of meth, a little nose candy. You can smoke it, you can toke it, do whatever you want to do, and then go. It's a truck stop. And it feels just like it sounds. And there are pockets of havens in New Mexico. It doesn't matter. In the end, the moment you leave your neighborhood, you're in New Mexico. And it literally is just like one big bad Breaking Bad episode. That is New Mexico. Then from there, New Mexico back to California with Apple. Bakersfield, California, border state. So living in Arizona, living in New Mexico, living in a border state in Bakersfield, which you're like, how's that a border state? It's kind of a ways from the border. They all end up in Mexico. It has a huge illegal immigration problem, huge crime problem. It is horrible in Bakersfield. My uncle was a cop there. I ran the Apple store there. We had snatch and grabs every week, and it was bad. From there, my rebirth began. The home away from home. The political Shangri-La of Matt Spear. My beautiful state of Texas. Love Texas. Love all the people in Texas. Love all my friends who I don't get to talk enough. I mean, I've got a guy who is a next door neighbor friend of mine who I just adore and love, and he's trying to get me to sell his coffee, and damn it, I need to call him. Virgil, and I feel horrible. I love the Texas people. Best place we've ever lived until Virginia. And now living, and trust me, that's just the beginning. I mean, I can go, there's plenty of other states that I've lived in. I mean, we can talk about Intel training. I was all over the place. I was in San Diego. I was in Coronado. I was out of Coronado. I was in Little Creek, was in Dam Neck, Virginia. Spent some time in Pennsylvania and Maryland, Northern Virginia at that point. D.C., lived in D.C., I can go on and on and on. I've lived in a lot of places. But no better than Texas and Virginia. Now, Virginia's purple, even a little blue, but where we live, it is awesome. And it's the safest place in America, the best education in America, and the highest cost of living in America. It's expensive to live where I live, but I can unlock my door with no problem, which will never happen. Why am I telling you all this? Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Post-workout shake. You guys know I always get hiccups when I drink this thing. I don't know why. Why am I telling you all this? Because I love Texas. And I've lived in 2 states that commonly talk about secession. Not succession, secession. To secede, to separate, to remove oneself from the equation. And that's California, which has said it several times. And not just California as a whole, but even Orange County and other places that are predominantly Republican have talked about separating from California and turning it into a 3-state solution. It's almost like Israel and Palestine, for God's sakes, but it would be a 3-state solution. You would have the Northern California, you would have the Southern Californias and Central California. And the Southern California would most assuredly be the liberals, and the Northern California would be more moderate, and then Central would be predominantly Republican conservative. And they would break up their overall population, they would break up their representatives, and they would be 3 separate states. Do I think that's a good idea? No. And then Texas has talked about seceding plenty of times as well. As far as the heat in Texas, you get used to it. You get used to it damn quick. If you can survive, listen, it snowed 3 times my first year in Texas in Houston. Go figure. And yeah, it's hot, but I love the humidity. Like Virginia, they say it's humid here. I laugh at them. I fought in the general direction.
Bruh, Big Chungus.
I laugh at
Bruh,
them.
Big Chungus.
I laugh at them. I laugh at them incessantly. Virginia's humid? How cute. I could literally take a pocket knife and cut the air out of Houston and take a bite like a donut. It's the place where you come out of the shower and you're drier if you get back in the shower. That's no joke. I had to put antiperspirant on my chest. That's how hot it gets. I was wearing suits and I was wearing dress shirts all the time. And by the time I got out of the car, I would literally sweat through. And I wasn't decent, good shape like I am now. I wasn't fat. My body was tight. I was good. I was probably about 12% body fat, which is fairly good for a guy my age. Carried a little bit more in the gut and the love handles than I wanted to, but chest, arms, legs, all that were solid. Butt, there is no butt. I don't have a butt. Spears don't have a butt. Just letting you know. My wife will tell you different. She'll say I do. I don't. There's no such. I don't have an ass. I don't care how much I squat. I'm pushing 345 and I can't get an ass. Just letting you know, I don't have one. All the lead went from my ass to my brain. So the whole point is you got to put antiperspirant on your chest or some talcum powder or something, because you would literally just you'd sweat. So that's that. Yeah, Arkansas is the same way, right? Louisiana is the same way. Just the butthole, the Gulf of Mexico, the butthole of Satan's butthole of the world. But it's a great place, and they're great people, and the food is awesome. And you get out on your patio, and the sun sets, and the heat's radiating off, and it's got a little cool chill in the air, but the concrete is all hot still. And you go out there and you get some toddies, man, get a few pops, and you set off some fireworks for 4th of July, and you cook a giant frickin' rack of rib. Oh man, Texas is great. So my dilemma is this. Is that I have lived in border states, high illegal immigration states and cities for the last 15 years. And I will tell you, I know a lot about it. I also sit with a director of the Border Patrol, and I can't give you a specific title because then you know who he is. But I sit with him every other weekend and we have pancakes together at the local diner. Haven't had it a lot lately. So I feel pretty comfortable understanding. I also talk to guys in the DEA. I talk to guys in ICE every weekend. I have a pretty good pulse with the Washington. A lot of people in DC live right here where I live. A ton of people. I know a couple guys in the State Department. It's a great place that I moved to do this show. And it's lucky that I did, because the contacts that I do have and the people that I do talk to, I get to ask the questions that I need answers to. And then they know I'm not going to tell them anything. I even know a marshal on Donald Trump's protection squad, because outside of the Secret Service, he has marshals protecting him too, because of the litigation going against him. So even know a guy in his detail. So, I just get lucky with the people that I get to meet. And the one thing I know about immigration is that there's no such thing as a illegal immigrant and an immigrant. Because one is not an immigrant and the other is. So when people say illegal immigration, no. There's no such thing. Immigration is based on legalities, and there's a specific set of rules that you have to check the box in order to legally migrate or immigrate into the United States of America. So when people say illegal immigration, there's no such thing. It's illegal invasion. It's breaking and entering. It's being here illegally. It's occupation. It's a lot of things. What it certainly isn't is illegal immigration. There's no such thing. And I got a message from Leroy. I got to read it. Sorry. family, you know? Leroy, if you're watching, don't worry about it, brother. I'm sure you are. Don't sweat it. Take the time to get better. Get healthy. All right. There's two things true about the occupiers or the lawbreakers or the illegals. Somehow illegals was fine for decades. Now you can't say it because it's insensitive. I don't give a crap. Illegals. You're illegal. You're here. Listen, if somebody has a bench warrant, you're illegal. You are outside the law. You are outside the boundaries of being a legal citizen. Therefore, you are an illegal citizen. It's not hard. There's nothing nefarious about it. You're an illegal. Now, illegal alien, that's a little rough. But honestly, they don't speak English anyway, so they don't even know. Okay, little joke, little humor, just a little humor. But I do understand the difference between an asylum seeker and a person who is an illegal. The only thing about asylum seeker is that there are a very specific set of rules to claim asylum in the United States. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you're seeking asylum into the United States, there's a couple ways to do that. Is that you illegally cross into the United States, then you are apprehended on a bench warrant, or you cross the road and got a jaywalking ticket, or your neighbor or the guy at Home Depot asks you to come paint and he finds out you're an illegal and he calls INS, and then you ultimately say, you can't send me back because I will be persecuted, or I will be killed, or my family's being held hostage by the cartel, or whatever it is, and I'm seeking asylum in the United States. That's one way. Two, you go to a port of entry. And that can be done on El Paso crossing with a vegetable check into San Diego. You can do this at a physical port from a vessel. You can do it in a lot of places. And the requirement for port of entry is different than seeking asylum. There's two types. They're seeking asylum because where you're coming from, you are fleeing a dangerous situation or a threat that will create bodily harm to you or others. And then there's political asylum. A political asylum can't happen at a port of entry. It has to be done in an embassy. So if you're going to claim political asylum from a persecution of a government or some sort of legal ease going against you, you can't just do that at a port of entry. So the people that go ahead and say that all these people are asylum seekers, first of all, the burden of proof is not on us to assume positive intent. The burden of proof is on them. And if they are going to say that I am seeking asylum, then all have to go ahead and demonstrate how. And this is the problem. Now, I want to make something really clear before we get into Texas, because this one's super important. There is a difference between illegal entry and immigration, because all immigration is legal. To immigrate is a different thing. So legal immigration is normally a good thing. But with the amount of illegals coming across our border, putting a strain on the current system, the backlogs we have, the visa overstage, which is the number one abuse that happens when it comes to immigration. It's not the southern border, and it's not the northern border. As far as drugs and sex trafficking and stuff like, yeah, of course, that's where a lot of the crime's coming. But if you want to talk about people who are in our country illegally, visas are the number one culprit. Hands down. Hands down. So that needs to be fixed too. But legal immigration, or just immigration, and that number that we allow in each year annually, needs to be put on pause. Because the amount of overflow that we have of current court cases, the amount of illegals in our country, ranging from 11 million to 20 million, and some say 25, 26, 30 million, we don't even know. And there's a reason. And this is the number one argument against Democrats. And I like to break it down to the lowest common denominator. But the most consistent factoid that ties it all together is I'm going to tell you that you're arguing the wrong thing and tell you what you need to currently argue when it comes to liberals and people who are getting in your face on social or a family member or a neighbor. In order for you to have immigration from a legal standpoint, you have to stop it right now. And we need a moratorium on immigration. Not that I'm not for it. I'm completely for it. But there is such a backlog of work from the courts that some of these illegals, or asylum seekers as they call them, which is crap, all they got to do is just say the word asylum. That's all you got to do. Is that some of them are waiting on a docket for 5 years. No one seems to care, the people who are actually doing it the right way, the people who are going through the process and stay in their country. Why is it okay for people who come here to immigrate to our country legally, stay in their home country and wait for the process to complete, but somehow it's inhumane to have illegals who have broken the law wait in their country? Well, we know why, because there's only one simple reason. Here's what you need to know. Pretty simple. Everyone says illegal immigrants come into this country and Democrats let them because they want them to what? Who knows the answer? Call into the show. If you haven't, all phone lines are on. If you'd like to call in, say hello, take part in the show. This is a much kindler, gentler, softer Matt. Promise I won't bite your head off. 804-212-2208. We're not going to be on long, probably just shy of 8:15 or so, I hope. It's not to vote. And see, and that is the misnomer. Because to understand this, a lot of people are like, well, illegals get to vote. Now, careful. Not in federal elections. Not even on state legislature, but a lot of local city and town. That's usually the extent of it. Now, that's not okay either, right? Not okay at all. Not okay. But you have to dig deeper. And if you would like to know why Democrats continue to allow illegal immigrants to come into our country, it's not about a vote. Because to be honest with you, pretty much every state in the union has guidelines for not voting in federal elections, senatorial races, gubernatorial, state legislature. That local elections, county clerk, sheriff, stuff like that, there are several cities and townships that allow illegals to vote in those. Not that that's okay, because it's not okay, but I'm just letting you know that's very much exaggerated. Now, there it is. Keith got it. Keith Blackstock. What a name. Sounds like you're either a detective in a crime novel or a porn star. We're going to go with detective because I don't know if you find that funny or not. So it really is about changing the demographic. But how do you change a demographic? How do you change a demographic? And what does demographic mean? Take a second. How do you establish a demographic? How do you establish man, woman, Christian, Latino, Buddhist, Republican, Democrat, whatever? How do you establish a Democrat or a demographic? It's pretty easy. There's only one thing that establishes that inside the United States, and that's the census. And every 10 years, we have a giant census. And this establishes how many state legislatures we have, how many senators is fixed. But it ultimately draws the district lines, gives us how many state prosecutors there are, how many local prosecutors there are, how many sheriffs there are, how many constables there are, how many county clerk recorder's office, judges on the circuit court, all of these things, census. And that's how you establish a demographic in the United States of America, is through census. Who are you? What demographic are you? Are you white? Are you black? Are you old? Are you young? Are you a part of this generation, that generation? Do you vote this? Do you vote that? What's your religion? Are you blonde? Are you blue-eyed? Whatever it is, demographic. So when you want to know why Democrats want illegal immigration in the United States and unfettered access to it, it is simply the expansion of their current influence, knowing that these illegal immigrants will more than likely latch onto the inner city areas and surrounding areas of inner cities, which are predominantly Democrat strongholds. They also know that those districts will overswell previous census records. And when that happens and current population leaves because of the crime, leaves because of the drugs, leaves because of the dangers and the lack of the family value system, and that ultimately their schools will start to depreciate, they create forced attrition. And these inner cities continue to expand and get bigger and cut into the suburbanite areas, force them out where people seek haven. And what they understand is that those people, those replants, will repopulate other areas across the United States and the larger cities that aren't blue and start to turn them purple. And the census rewards this because you get to displace voters who are Democrat, get Republicans out and Democrats to go somewhere else, like Texas, like Georgia, like Pennsylvania, like Wisconsin, like Michigan, like Oregon, and change the entire complexity over generational change of the electoral map based upon immigration pushing and changing the way that these cities operate and the way these states operate. That is why you allow illegal immigration. It has nothing to do with voting. Eventually, a path to citizenship is why they want. You give those DACA recipients who are already legal and can vote, that doesn't change a thing. But if you find a way to go ahead and absorb the 20 million illegals here, the Republicans will never win an election again. This is the thing we need to understand, is this isn't about a single paper ballot. This is about changing the complexity of the way that our electoral system is, and to influence the electoral system by making it a popular vote like every other election is in the United States. And the way you make it a popular vote is ultimately put a mass amount of people, saturate these blue areas, move them out into red areas, and you turn big cities purple. It's why you can look at Virginia, and once Newport News, once Virginia Beach, once Fairfax and Hamilton and Loudoun come in and Ashburn, the entire state's decided. That's why you can look at Texas and see a 25-point swing for an incumbent like Beto O'Rourke at 8 o'clock, and see Dallas and El Paso and San Antonio and Austin and others come on in. And then every other rural county, the 246 of them that just literally hit red, will eventually take over. But this is why Democrats do this. Now, if you don't believe me, you go, Matt, you're insane. You're making this up. This is all conspiracy theory. No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Because if you remember in the 2020 census, Donald Trump fought for one thing. He even took it all the way to the Supreme Court, district courts, which was he wanted illegals to have to declare if they were U.S. citizens or not during the census. Democrats vehemently opposed this unanimously. across judges, state legislature, Senate. It didn't matter. Every Democrat fought to establish whether U.S. citizens were being counted. Now, their excuse was, if you remember and go back to this, if you can remember back a couple of years, and since a lot of you think there was a stolen election, you guys can't remember crap. But I'm not here to school you on that tonight. But 2 years ago, 3 years ago, now 4 years ago, the argument was that ICE, which was a hot topic at this time because Donald Trump let loose, had ICE round up Antifa and BLM, but also illegal immigrants, especially on the border, and went into these states and actually deported them, even though Donald Trump had the lowest deport numbers in presidential history in the last 60 years. Obama and Biden both eclipsed Donald Trump's entire 4 years in the first 6 months of their presidency. Give me a break. Their mass immigration issues, illegal immigration issues, were so bad they couldn't keep up with the deportations, and they were deporting more than any other president in U.S. history. So if you remember what they said that ICE was going to use the census to track down illegals and deport them. So they fought it. They scared people, and they got to keep it on the census that all these people were going to be able to be counted in the U.S. census as U.S. citizens, as voters, as citizens, taxpayers. And they were going to be counted against the total, which is the way we distribute state legislature. Judges, constables, county clerks, everything else is all decided. Now, senators is fixed. It'll always be fixed. But as far as every other area of government, predominantly districts, voting districts, those people would be counted against representation. And once a district eclipses a certain number, based about 700,000, that district will split. And you will see some districts that are 70,000, 100,000, whatever. But there's a ratio to proportion of state legislatures to the overall populace. And that is why you will see the number change. I think it's 432 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe more than that. Somebody help me out. It's got to be more than that. Let me find out for you. I don't have my handy-dandy notebook. So 100 senators, we know that. Ooh, that's bright. What is the current number? Because the new number just came out, and that's what I'm looking for. I know the old number. I want to know the new number. $435. So 400. I said 432, or I say 420, 432, 426. 435 Congress completely. 435 in the U.S. House of Representatives and 100 in the Senate. That's gone up. So it used to be 426. So we have gained roughly 9 House seats. I think California got 4 or 5 of those. Do you see? Do you see how that changes things? Especially when you're running a House that is so slim a margin. So when you have 5 seats immediately opened up in these areas that are predominantly blue, I guarantee it, every one of them are, you're going to be able to put a Democrat there, and then immediately you go ahead and you create a contest to the House. So this is why they want to go ahead and make D.C. a state. This is why they want to have representation in Puerto Rico and Guam and the U.S. Virgin Islands, is because it adds more representatives. And if you make D.C. a state, you get 2 more Senate seats. Does anyone actually think that those 2 Senate seats aren't going to be blue? You think Puerto Rico's not going to be blue? You think the U.S. Virgin Islands isn't going to be blue? You think Puerto Rico, did I say Puerto Rico? Yes. Guam? So now you're talking a possible 6 Senate seats. 6. It'd be more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Because each state, no, depending on size, does not matter. They will each get 2. So now instead of having a Senate of 100, you'll have 110. And you'll have to end it on a round number because the tie vote goes to the president, vice president. Is it starting to become a little bit clearer? Why do you think they want to go ahead and allow felons to vote? Why do you think they want to go ahead and allow kids under 18 to vote? It's all about expanding the way our electoral system runs. So when we look at this, and you look at Texas, there's a lot to be looked at. There's a lot to be seen. And we have an obligation to ensure that our borders are protected. We have an obligation to ensure that our country and the integrity of our elections are protected. And let's face it, we've already established that liberals don't care. We know this. We know they don't care. Governor Greg Abbott, who I've had a chance to meet one time while working at Comcast. It's the same time I met Dan Crenshaw. Someone said the show is buffering. Is the show buffering? Let's find out. I don't think it's buffering. Let me see if I can find out the stats. Hold on. I'm here for you. Bandwidth statistics. Let's find out. Going to go ahead and minimize old Mr. Abbott, and we're going to look right here. I don't know, guys. We're looking pretty good. Red line is perfect. Oh, you can't see that. Here, let me fix this for you. Let's see. Preview mode. Can you see that now? No, you can't. Damn it. What if I put this in this window? Nope, you can't see it. All right. Either way, I'm looking at my resource, and my resource looks good. It's fluctuating a little bit, but it's not bad. Back to live mode. We're looking pretty good, folks. We're running a 28.62 average. I think we're fine. All right. So if you're buffering, check your internet connection. All right, great. So here's the thing. This is what Governor Greg Abbott sent to the White House. The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce the federal laws protecting states. And this was established long before Greg Abbott took office or Joe Biden. This was established during the anti-federalist and federalist movement. Federalists wanting a federal government of a larger stature, and anti-federalists who wanted them to pound sand and believe that the states could do what they wanted to do. And some founding fathers were anti-federalists, and some of them were federalists, and that is where a great compromise took place and has been a compromise up to about 1992 to 1996. And then our country literally has gone to crap as nobody has been working together. Now, when we look at this, there was a simple negotiation that took place in exchange for a federal government that ultimately the federal government would be required and responsible for protecting the sovereignty and the defense of the states. not just on a national stage, but on a domestic level. And this became the responsibility of the United States government. And the states gave this power to the federal government in exchange for them to have unilateral power when it came to certain portions of their responsibilities. For instance, codifying certain amendments on a national scale if the states agree, repealing amendments based upon the states with a 75% vote, or proposing amendment with a 2/3, 66% majority vote, would then codify law from a federal level if the states agreed. But the interesting thing that the anti-federalists wanted was a get-out-of-jail-free card. And those get-out-of-jail-free cards are in the Bill of Rights. And it's really simple. You can pick up this book on the Don't Unfriend Me show at thedumshow.com and pick up your Bill of Rights and go specifically to Amendment 10, which is the reserve powers of the states. And it is a get-out-of-jail-free card to usurp the government of its authority if they fail to do their jobs. I wrote a great article on this. You can find it on thedumshow.com and click news, and you can read it. It's not too hard. It's about 700 and some odd words, and it should take you about 5 minutes. Following up with the rest of this, including immigration laws on the books right now, President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he's smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand. This is Abbott. We remember that video. I did a show on it where Abbott was in his wheelchair and handed Biden a letter. The one where Biden didn't get lower down on his knee and actually show some deference to a person who is in a wheelchair, but stood towering above him and probably tripped a few minutes later. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crimes of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along his state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. And trust me, I have been in the Rio Grande, and it ain't no joke. They would pull bodies out of there often, and we would lose people who went tubing in the Rio Grande, and you would get flash rains up in Santa Fe in the mountains, and the Rio Grande would get absolutely flooded, and that water would be moving at such a high rate and such a swell at such a high speed, it would literally suck down people on inner tubes. Not just speed them up and toss them around, suck them underneath and hold them there until they died. The Rio Grande is no joke. I visited the Rio Grande with a couple of buddies who were visiting who had a layover in Albuquerque Airport. And they were both extremely good swimmers. And when I say they were good swimmers, if I say they were team guys, I'm not talking about the Harvard yacht team. I'm talking about guys who professionally are cold and wet for most of their existence. And both of them looked at me and said, I will not swim across that, not a f***ing chance. The Rio Grande is no joke. It is wide, it is murky, and if you get pulled under, you're dead. There is no coming back. It is like swimming in chocolate milk. You can't see, you don't know which way is up, and most people get lodged in between a rock or sucked into the muck, which creates a vacuum. It is dangerous, and it'll kill you fast. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. That is a staggering figure. That is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. The illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. What I love is that the article that I put out at like noon today has all of these statutes from the Constitution in it. I know I keep pushing the books, folks, but it's all right here. You want to know how much research I did? I flipped open the book and I just simply recited the statutes. It's in the article. Go look. It's exactly what Abbott wrote before he wrote it. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president, anti-federalist. That's what we just talked about, who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. That is why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting the borders. Arizona versus United States, which I cited also in my article, 5-6 U7387 419 2012 Scalia in his dissenting opinion. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed of Article 4 and Section 4 has triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. Liberals don't like the word self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety and other Texas personnel are acting on authority as well as state law to secure the Texas border. Governor Greg Abbott. Now, I'll take some phone calls. I know you've got comments. I know you've got questions. But before we do that, just a quick break, and then I expect the phone to ring. Don't call during the commercial. This is important. Here it is. Hey, what's going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me podcast. It's interesting. I've had these books for, 3 years now, and I've got, 3 independent books of the Declaration, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution of the United States that I inherited from my mother. Leather-bound, beautiful, and they're older books, 1935, 1937, something to that effect. I'll show them on the show, but people see me reference these nightly on the show, and the interesting thing is I've never really put 2 and 2 together. We have a website, and someone asked last night, hey, how the heck do I get those books? Where do I get those books? And it dawned on me that I should provide these. So they are now on sale. They're beautiful books. They're leatherette books. They're hardback, which is nice. They don't have a dust cover or anything. I've used these, like I said, ad nauseum, and they hold up and they stand the test of time. They've got pictures of the framers, founders, inside the books. They make references with different colors to kind of explain things in a little bit of a simpler way or give some context. But this is word for word, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration. So it's a pretty cool thing. $14.99 per book, and then I'll ship them to you. And then we also have the Documents of Freedom collection, which is all 3 books, and it comes in a hardbound sleeve, which is really nice. And I think that's $49.99. So take a look on the site. You can peruse as much as you want, and now you can own the books that I have on the show. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys 7 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday. No, wait, 7 o'clock all week long, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock. We'll see you live. Good night, everybody. So I want to be completely clear because nobody's asked, but it's important to me. What do I make off of those books? It's a great question, okay? Because you can find them cheaper. You can. And that's because certain companies like Amazon buy by the boatload. And these are actually done from Library of Congress and also, oh God, what is the other name? I don't remember. It's not Library of Congress. It is Library of Congress and some other. Smithsonian? It doesn't matter. It's Applewood Books. And I want to be completely transparent. With the allergies are killing me. Oh. the itching is horrible. Olivia didn't give me my allergy medicine for a week, so I've been dying, and she just picked it up today, so I'm like ready to go run for it. With the books that are $14.99 a piece, I picked those up for about $10. So $5 after taxes. I pay $1.32 in tax. Shipping I break even on, and then I give 10% to the Travis Manion Foundation every year. So I probably make $3.50 a book, maybe. And then on the bulk one, a little bit different. Shipping on that is close to $7 because it weighs more than a pound. And it comes with the leather-bound sleeve, which is really cool. And then with taxes on that are almost $5. It's something like $4.32, shipping $7, and giving 10% there. I make about $4.50–$5 per set. So just to disclose to you where the money goes, I want you to understand that. I always want you to know you can pick them up on Amazon if you really wanted to for a little bit cheaper. After you pay shipping and handling and everything else, you're probably going to save $1 or $2 on the books, and you're probably going to go ahead and save $5 on the bundle. But this way, you donate to the show, and so far they've sold out. We've sold 10 of them so far. So now, if I could just get my, I'm just ready to itch it with my mic. That tells you about the book. So there you go. So now that we've established that, let's move into something else. So when we talk about it, you guys are more than welcome to call in 804-212-2208. I'm turning on the phone lines now. They're officially open. So if you want to call in, you want to talk, you have a question, anything else, I'd appreciate it. God, I'm going to have to pop smoke, man. My nose is just driving me crazy. Let's look at a couple things when it comes to what Abbott has as options. Now, a lot of people, especially on the left, are encouraging Joe Biden to federalize the National Guard in Texas. I want to be really clear. I get frustrated with Tim Pool because every other word out of his mouth is civil war. Oh, Philippe, thank you for buying the Freedom Collection. I appreciate that. Awesome. It's great for you. Thank you so much. I love the support. It's unreal. That's number 12 now because we had one sell earlier. So thank you so much. I always try to thank people. If you buy something when we're on, I always try to thank people. So Philippe, I'm assuming that is the name. Thank you so much. I hope it was. Yeah, Philippe. Thank you so much. So Tim Pool talks about it all the time, and I'm always just like, dude, Tim, seriously, dude. I like Tim. He's a smart guy, but it's just like, let's not sensationalize. There's only so many times, like Glenn Beck. You can only call for the end of the world and Armageddon so many times before you're being ridiculous. Emma, thank you. Thank Philippe for me, and Emma, thank you for buying them. So I want to be clear. If Joe Biden federalizes the National Guard and orders the National Guard to assist the Border Patrol to remove forcefully the countermeasures to limit illegal immigrants, and I'm using a term now, illegals into this country. Let me explain the ramifications of that. Now, there are 24 current governors, I think 25 signed on, who have signed on to support Abbott in this stance. And here are their names. I'll put them over here so you can all see them. Oh, crap. Here, I'll just scroll it up. Wyoming, Governor Mark Gordon. Iowa, Kim Reynolds. Arkansas, Huckabee Sanders. Montana, Governor Greg Ginefort. Florida, DeSantis. Idaho, Brad Little. North Dakota, Doug Burgum. Nebraska, Jim Pilon. West Virginia, Jim Justice. Kay Ivey in Alabama. Bill Lee in Tennessee. Jeff Landry in Louisiana. Brian Kemp. Yeah, don't call Brian Kemp a rhino ever again. I don't want to hear that shit about that guy. That guy is stand the F up. Donald Trump got him wrong. Spencer Cox in Utah. Governor Glenn Youngkin, my man. Thank you, Governor Glenn Youngkin. Appreciate you. That's why I campaigned for your ass. That's why I stood up for your ass. That's why we also supported Brandon Michon, Mr. Youngkin. South Dakota, Christine Noem, good for Christine. Or Christy Noem, good for Christy. Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, sorry. Mike Dunleavy in Alaska. Eric Holcomb in Indiana. Tate Reeves in Mississippi. Mike Parson in Missouri. Nevada, Joe Lombardo. New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. Ohio, Mike DeWine. And South Carolina, Henry McMaster. If my count is correct in my head, I believe it's 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Damn, I'm good. So let me explain something. With 25 governors, let me explain what just... Maureen, thank you for buying the collection. Caller, I'll be right there. Mute your phone for me real quick so I can finish my thought. Caller, can you mute your phone real quick, please? Just hit the just hit the mute button. I'm going to get back to you in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Maureen, thanks for buying the books. You have right now 50% of the United States opposing the federal government. If you really want to put it into terms to understand, that would be a larger force than what a civil war was fought over. If you really want to understand, that is 25 states utilizing the 10th Amendment and usurping power back from the federal government that was bestowed upon them during the drafting of the Constitution and the laws of this country and land, and saying to them, we are invoking our right under the 10th Amendment to remove powers to the federal government. The next step in this process before civil war would be a convention of states, and they have enough to begin the convention of state process. And they could codify into a new amendment removing the right of the federal government to protect the borders of this country with a 66% two-thirds majority. Now, do we believe that there are another 8 states that will join? Yep. Because there are states that will join who are being impacted by this, and it's not going to take much, because let me tell you why. And let me explain to you why every single state eventually, except for the most liberal and left of left, will support this endeavor with the other states. Thank you, my God, people, Jeff, for buying a collection of Freedom books. Man, God, give me goosebumps, people. God, I might make $100 this week. All right. Caller, I got you. I know you're on. I'm almost done. Because if you look at what is protecting Roe v. Wade right now, it is the 10th Amendment. And that is what happened when they took it and removed it from the 14th Amendment, refused to codify it. They kicked it back to the states under the 10th. If you remove the federal government's ability to protect our borders, you then remove the federal government's ability to influence the states, and all law will be questioned. All writ will be questioned. All legislation will be questioned by the states. And if that is the case, liberals will lose out just as much as conservatives. This is the boiling point we've been worried about. This is the turning point into our country. James says the Convention of States are never going to happen. That is an absolute ridiculous comment. Convention of States is closer today than it ever has been. That is a ludicrous comment. You have 25 states who have just signed a letter of resistance against Joe Biden. And here is what the letter states. Caller, I got you. I'm not going to let you go. Here's the letter. We stand in solidarity with our fellow governor who has said that he is revoking the right of the federal government and executing the 10th Amendment and the reserve powers and the specific clauses and sections of the U.S. Constitution and state constitution of Texas to resist the federal government's authority. You have 25 states agreeing. We stand with solidarity with our fellow governor, Greg Abbott, in the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences to secure the border. We do it in the part because the Biden administration is refusing to enforce immigration laws already on the books and is illegally. They are charging him with a crime in the writ of black and white and signing a unanimous letter in indemnity in an absolute stalwart, resolute fashion, saying, Joe Biden, you are illegally executing these orders and you are failing to fulfill your obligation and oath of office. This is impeachment waiting to take place. I don't think you understand how serious this is. We do it in part because the Biden administration is illegally allowing mass parole across America of migrants who entered the country illegally. The authors of the Constitution made clear in the times like this, states have the right of self-defense under Article 4, Section 4, blah, blah, blah. I already read that all off to you. Those are signed. Convention of States, 2/3. You can absolutely begin the process of calling for a convention of states right now and do a vote on it right now. What is Joe Biden going to do? Federalize the National Guard, the state of Texas's defense and right to have a civilian militia and military standing dedicated and loyal and funded by the state of Texas, Texas citizenry, which is established in the National Guard. And federalize them and weaponize them against their own state. You really believe, and you're going to look me in the eye, that every other state, which we've got more red states than they'd have blue states, isn't going to sign on, and a couple of blue states, which are like right on the precipice, won't sign. I think you don't give the American people enough credit. The American people, 71% of them, believe that the border is a complete snafu, the number one topic for this election, and are in solidarity that the border must be shut down. Caller, thank you so much for muting your phone. I don't know who's on the line, but whoever you are amazing. You stayed on for 6 minutes. Who is on the phone?
This is Melanie.
Melanie, what is up,
Louisiana.
my friend?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
It's been a while, Melanie. Good to hear from you.
I know. I had to finish up with all my treatments and all of that and get through all the sickness and finally feeling better.
So, Melanie, you've heard. First of all, I'm glad you're doing better. That's always good news. You've heard me talk about Convention of States, how it's dangerous. It is dangerous because once you open it up, you ultimately create a situation. But with these 25 governors, understand this: a Convention of States can be a protected movement based upon not creating a convention without establishing what will be detailed in the actual Convention of States. They will move forward with the Convention of States as long as the lines are clearly defined on what they can and cannot do. As long as those rules are established, because a Convention of State has no written rules in place, these groups of states will have to vote on what the rules and procedures are of the Convention of States, because it's not properly laid out in the Constitution. Then we can have some assurances that other things won't be changed. So all of that we have to assume will be laid out. But let me ask you a question. What's worse, a Convention of States or literally having Joe Biden weaponize the federal government to, in my opinion, attack the state of Texas?
What was worse, you said, or better?
Yeah, I don't, just your overall thoughts.
Worse would be Joe Biden doing what he was doing. A Convention of States, it's going to be 50-50 either way you go. But by him weaponizing that, then he thinks he's going to do every single border state. And I'm going to tell you, Louisiana may be jumping on that list.
Louisiana most
We
assuredly.
now have a Republican governor.
Yeah, but even when they don't have a Republican governor, you're going to see other states fall in line because
No, we do have one.
No, but even if you don't, is what I'm saying, is other states are going to fall in line because they are all affected by illegals, and this isn't a joke. This is something that is.
Well, let me tell you what's happening at our two ports: the Port of Baton Rouge and the Port of New Orleans.
Yep.
They're smuggling them in on these big barges.
Yep.
My uncle, they're I don't know how you would explain what they are, but they have to get on these boats at the Gulf, and they have to be on there to guide these boats in. They don't drive; they just sit there and guide them in the waterways.
Yeah.
And what's coming in is that they're having these crates. So what's going on now, thank God, since we got a new governor, he's like, okay, no crates get unloaded, no goods get unloaded. All these people, they packed in crates, people, men.
That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, well, now it's gotten worse. And New Orleans she's getting paid to allow them in through the cruise lines and through the shipping lines. So that's coming to a halt, thank God. We don't get as many bus drop-offs. We got a few. And in fact, one got arrested for raping a 13-year-old. And guess who came take him out to Sheriff's Department's jail? The DOJ. Now, how does that happen?
Yeah,
Only if he has a record above.
I don't know,
local.
but I want to narrow the conversation. We can absolutely talk about individual cases and atrocities because they're horrendous, and I've read them, I've reported on them. What we're talking about right now is bigger than this. We are talking about a state that is firmly taking a stand against the United States government, and it is 26 because Texas isn't on this list. So now you are literally 36. You're 10 away. You need 10 other states.
Yep.
So you've got Texas
well,
on
I'm pretty sure Louisiana's going to get on there.
You know Louisiana's good. Well, you know what? Let's look at here. Let's make this easy. Watch this. Maps, red and blue. USA. Let's pull it up. We'll look at it together. Okay. We'll see what's red, what's blue, what's not. Let's see. I've got a 2022 map here, and it just pulled up. All right. We ready? Let me put this in the corner.
I can't really see. I got the show muted so I can talk. Okay.
Kiddo, that's what I'm here for. We've got Idaho.
Okay.
We've got Montana. We have got Utah. We have got Nebraska. We've got Oklahoma. Let's see. Michigan, Wisconsin. Did Wisconsin? No. So you got a Wisconsin as a possibility. Okay. So you're going to count for me, right?
Oh Lord, you didn't tell me that.
Well,
okay.
I'm going to have you do it right now. Okay. So you got Maine.
Okay.
You got Maine. Okay. So you got Maine. That's one. I'm checking 3 lists here, so this is going to take some work. Maine is not currently on the list, so there's one. Okay. You've got West Virginia has not signed it, so that's 2. You got South Carolina, who has signed it. You've got North Carolina, which hasn't signed it. So there's 4. You've got Alabama, which hasn't signed it. Oh, you guys, this is done deal. Now, I don't even need to go any further. It comes down to this. Hey, I'm going to let you go, kiddo. I got it. I want to keep moving, and I got to get off here so I can go spend some time.
Also,
go ahead.
Real quick. I think you should, because you're only usually on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I'm on
about
all week.
Having callers.
I'm on all week, Monday through Friday.
The mornings, like when Mike's not here, think about getting callers to sponsor the show for an hour, like $50 to sponsor on the subject they want to talk about. Just an idea.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know if I would charge anybody, but I would probably just do that open. But we're going to be
No, sponsor. Have them sponsor that show so they're on there.
Oh, well, I need someone to run all my PR for me. So when you're ready to do it, I'll put you on commission.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk later. I'll talk to you soon, kiddo. Thanks.
All right.
I'm glad you're doing better.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Mel. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So here's what it comes down to. I understand that there are plenty of states. Michigan is not going to probably agree. But understand this is that if it is a red state from an elected representative standpoint, they can put an immense amount of pressure on those states, no matter who the governor is. This is a pretty big deal. Now, the one thing you need to understand is that there's two choices. Texas and the National Guard refuse a federal order. And if that's the case, it's the definition of civil war. If they refuse a federal order when he federalizes the National Guard and those commanders refuse that order, they will be relieved of command and the regular army will go into Texas and relieve that National Guard of command. That is not going to fucking go over well because you're going to have the constables and you're going to have the state police defend Texas. You also have bases of military regulars from Navy to Army in Texas and Air Force. None of this is good. From a militaristic standpoint, this is dangerous. So what you have to assume is that it's going to go the diplomatic way through the legal recourse, which would be the Convention of States or a proposed amendment from essentially the states agreeing. Proposing legislation to propose an amendment with a 2/3 majority that would be voted on in Congress. And then the House. And then the interesting thing, House and then Senate, and then ultimately would end up on Joe Biden's desk. Now, the question is, does that fall into the precedent of veto power? And I don't know if it would. That is going to be up to the Supreme Court, and it will go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court won't even let the lower courts touch it. It will be taken up by the Supreme Court immediately. An emergency session of the Supreme Court will be put in, and they will vote on that immediately, whether he has veto power of that proposed amendment. And I don't believe he would, based upon the way that this is brought forward, hasn't been done before. This is really, really interesting. And I don't know how the regular army would respond to this. I don't believe that they will be as acquiesce to Joe Biden's request as he thinks, especially in Texas. I want to make the last thing clear before I get off. We now geopolitically are a complete quagmire in the Middle East, in Europe, and in Southeast Asia, China, Sea of Japan, Taiwan area. This country is on the precipice of a world war. This country is on the precipice of a civil war. Yes, I understand what Donald Trump brings to the equation. I get it. But at least Donald Trump attacks the individual. Joe Biden maligned every person who voted with Donald Trump with extreme terrorism. He has went after MAGA, and you know they don't make that distinction. His followers, his pundits, his talking heads, his paid shills from the DNC calls us maggots, deplorables, racists, xenophobe, transphobes, homophobes. Bible gun-grabbing, Bible-thumping, Rust Belt, uneducated. He stood up there a year and a half ago amongst red backgrounds without a Hitler mustache and literally called all of us enemies of the state, domestic terrorists. And you're going to sit here and tell me that you're afraid of Donald Trump? You're afraid of Donald Trump, who wants to do what again? Well, let's listen to it. Because damn it, I got to go. I have not played Diablo at all. And Olivia and I are chomping at the bit, but this is important enough. This is important enough. And by the way, I think somebody else just bought a book. Hold on. And I don't want to miss anybody. Jeff, thank you. Maureen, thank you. And I already said thank you to Philippe. Thanks to everybody. I appreciate you. Now I got to order some crap. Here's the video. And I want you to do me a favor. The left are absolutely melting down over this. And to me, this is referendum 2025. This is out of the Republican playbook. And there's no doubt in my mind, it really calls for the narrowing of the Department of Justice and the alphabet agencies. And some may find this extreme, but I really want you to listen to this.
I plan to dismiss.
I really want you to listen. I'm sorry for the volume. That was very loud. I want you to listen to this and tell me what you think. All right, let's go.
The deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so, listen. There's a reason why that scares the left. And it scares the left because they know damn well that that takes away the bureaucracy of big government. And that's their tit. That's the thing they've been sucking on for a long time. And it is It is antithetical to conservative values. There's nothing there about weaponizing. There's nothing. It's literally saying we are going to limit the amount of non-elected positions in Washington. We are going to take the bureaucracy of the mass towns of elected officials who have the power to influence surrounding states with their bureaucracy and move them across the country and distribute these areas of of havens, of pockets of corruption, and move them where they can be regulated by the states. There's nothing wrong with that. Washington, D.C. needs to be absolved. All leadership inside Washington, D.C. should only be elected officials. Anything that is not an elected official position needs to be removed from Washington, D.C. It is not a state. It is a district. It does not have the same rules. It does not have the same processes. It does not have the same oversight as all other states, and it needs to be held accountable. It absolutely needs to be dissolved. It has got too big, too far, too fast, and the Founding Fathers had no intention of making Washington, D.C. the capital of this country. They had no idea or inclination to create this that is there as an independent, sovereign, almost country. Can anyone tell me the capital of the United States of America before Washington, D.C.? And is it Washington, D.C.? Who wants to tell me the capital of the United States? Does anybody actually know? I'll pull it up for you. What is the capital of the United States? It's a good question, isn't it? What's the capital? The capital is not the White House. It's not the Capitol building. It's Washington, D.C., which is an interesting thing. But if you go back and ask the question, what was the first U.S. capital for the USA? Wow. Old Philly, huh? Was that the very first? Was that the very first? Was it Philadelphia? It's amazing how much we don't know in our history. 1777, York, Pennsylvania. And then we moved it. The British were advancing on the Continental Congress in September of 1777, which forced the central government to move from Philadelphia to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We have changed our capital multiple times throughout U.S. history. So is the capital of the United States Washington, D.C.? Well, not according to our founding fathers. Not according to our founding fathers. Washington, D.C. was created to awe and intimidate foreign dignitaries. It was created to make these towering marble atrocities and ungodly Egyptian reference style buildings that were to the point of awe-inspiring for foreign dignitaries to see the sheer propensity of complex construction and advanced technology, whether it be stone, whether it be the construction of the White House, the Capitol itself, the federal court building. These things were meant to awe foreign nationals. See, the thing is that you can't say New York until you actually consider when we were a country. Karen, thank you for your order. When were we a country? When were we established as a country in the United States? See, so you can go ahead and talk about when we first came here, when we first expanded the colonies, and as they moved and expanded, but that's not the United States of America. That isn't the Constitution of the United States. That's not the Articles. It's not the Bill. It's not the Declaration of Independence. You have to take it based upon our founding fathers and who we are then, because us simply leaving English rule really is a clear moniker of when we became a sovereign country and a sovereign nation. So simply when we came here from Northern England and Yorktown and made New York and other surrounding states over the years isn't when we established. I didn't say when did we arrive into the United States? When did we arrive in North America? The question is when were we recognized as a country, as the United States, and fought a revolution in solidarity against England? That is when we were defined. So you have to ask yourself the question, what is Washington, D.C.? And has it outlived its usefulness? Should it become a state? Should it no longer house non-elected officials in its territory? Should Washington, D.C. simply be a place where government meets to represent the country, and all elected officials are the only ones that are there? See, it's interesting. There's so many different answers. 1812, 1776, 1786, 1788, 1791, all very important dates, 1775. Why don't you know? And why the hell are you waiting for me to tell you? Do some homework. Everyone go out and actually read some basic American history and identify when we established ourselves as a sovereign nation out from under British rule. And folks, it is the easiest thing for you to figure out because the answer is right in front of you. And it's the one document you all know. It's a declaration. That's when. Just because we weren't free of British rule, this is when we declared. This is when we said, enough, we're done. And honestly, it's right at the top of the document, folks. I don't think I can show you the picture, but it's right there. And we celebrate it every year. Top right-hand corner. July 4th, 1776. July 4th, 1776 is when we became a nation, is when we fled and refused the tyranny of English rule. That is the day, the birth of our country, the birth of our nation. And yes, I don't want to play semantics. July 4th. Thank you, Karen. I did say thank you earlier for your ordering. July 4th, 1776. That is the day that as a nation we were born. I understand what was here. I understand we were here before that. I get all those things. The moment that we left British rule is the day that we became a sovereign nation in the country, United States. July 4th, 1776, the birth of our nation. Remember it. Know it. Don't ever forget it again. Because it's been misconstrued with fireworks and barbecue and beer. We celebrate on July 4th because that is the birth of our country. That is when the United States was established. And the founding fathers were very clear what they wanted, and this isn't it. And the interesting thing is, everyone says, oh, they're a bunch of middle-aged white men slave owners. What do they know? What do they know? Now, this is really hard for me. This has got to be a joke. but I'm going to say it anyway. Who's doing it? Is this Quan? Who's playing the joke? Fuck Nguyen has authorized a payment. Just bought a book. Thank you for doing it. Someone's making a joke. Someone put the name and just wanted me to say it. And because you bought a book, I'm going to do it. We've sold 6 of those tonight. Thank you. You know what? Thank you. That's awesome. We really appreciate it. You should never have to forget, and you never should forget July 4th, 1776. There are certain dates in history that you should always remember. You should remember when France and England recognized the independence of the United States. You should recognize when we were born into a nation. You should know when John F. Kennedy was shot. You should know when they shot Ronald Reagan. You should know the start of Vietnam, of Korea, of Iraq, of OEF, IEF, OIF, OEF, OIF. You should know important dates in history. I'm telling you the last thing I'm going to say. I know how you feel. I know how you feel because you're sitting around and you're getting older and you're saying, I haven't been out of this country, or I haven't read this book, or I haven't watched this film, or I haven't reached out to that person. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And I will tell you, if you continue to do that, you won't. A lot of people ask me, where do I start? What book do I read first? How do I start to learn? How do I figure out of the immense timelines of world history, where do I begin? And I think the most important thing I can tell you, and the advice I can give you, the best advice, is that when you ask yourself, where do you begin? The answer is yes. That's the answer. It's not where to begin. It's not why you begin. It's not what you begin. It's what I've been trying to tell you for 3 years. It's why. Why you begin. Ask the why. And it's not that you're not going to be able to take it with you. And it won't matter whether you're on an ethereal plane or you're worm food for the rest of your life. But while you're here, you have to educate yourself. You have to arm yourself, because it's not about guns, and it's not about weapons, and it's not about grenades and bombs. It's this. This is Stephen Biko. Read about Stephen Biko and read about the power of education. Even Nelson Mandela, the commie prick. Read about the power. Read about Maya Angelou. And yes, I just picked 3 black people, because some of the most prolific and awe-inspiring people in world history and U.S. history were African American, including Rosa Parks, because it gives you an ability to understand something that you couldn't possibly understand. And whether it's Malcolm X or it's Frederick Douglass or Rosa Parks, they can teach you something. And it doesn't matter if it's Mao philosophy. Yes, read Maoist books. Yes, read Marxist-Leninism. Yes. Hell, I've read the Necronomicon, for God's sakes, which is the satanic Bible. I read anything I can get my hands on. So if you think this is bestowed upon me because somehow I am the biggest bullshit artist in the world, or I educate myself. I didn't go, I went to college. I dropped out. I dropped out of high school. I got into the military with a GED, and then I went back and got my high school diploma because they told me they don't accept GEDs anymore. I'm not the smartest man on earth. I watched Ben Shapiro today in Destiny have a debate, and I sat there and I was like, oh my God, it's like watching Eric Johnson show his guitar instruction. I watched it for 2 hours. I bought an instructional video from Eric Johnson to learn how to play. I didn't learn a fucking thing. I just watched it for 2 hours in awe and shock. You want to read a book? This guy. The Point of It All, Charles Krautheimer. This is the book you read. You want to start? This is where you start. This is where you start. Because this man wasn't beholden to anyone, and he did not go down on Donald Trump. He talked about the appeal of Trump. He talked about the things he liked, but he was very adamant to speak out against Trump. And this is the book you read. Not because of Trump, because I like Trump. I want Trump to win. After that video today, I'm fired up. But this is literally the day the music died. When Charles Krautheimer died, conservatism in this country died with him. He is the father of conservatism after the founding fathers left it. This man should have been president, but he was smart enough not to run. And yes, he had liberal ideas. Yes, he had conservative ideas, but he was a conservative through and was absolutely a constitutionalist. And he, in my opinion, is the smartest conservative ever in modernistic history. You want to read a book? Go read this book. Point of It All. Charles Krautheimer. This is the book. I don't make a penny. I can't sell it to you because I won't, because this is for his family. His son, who helped co-author this book, this is the book. You want to borrow it? No, get your own. You want to understand how balanced thinking works? You want to understand somebody who is able to walk the middle and still make it very clear what his values were? It's Charles Krautheimer. And the greatest honor I ever had was when somebody compared the way I think to Charles Krautheimer. You're nothing like him. You're obnoxious. You're belligerent. You're everything Charles wasn't. But the one thing you have in common is how you think like him. I wish I had a tenth of this man's poise, this man's grace. Go read Charles Krautheimer. He'll change your life. That's it. That's the why you begin. Why you begin. That's it. And start reading. Start understanding that history repeats itself. And we are literally in a cycle. And every 80 years or so, we repeat the cycle. This isn't the end of days. Folks, this isn't the end of days. The world's not going to end tomorrow. World War III may take place. Civil War may take place, but the world will go on. Every 80 years ago, the world needs to reset and remind itself that it's not as big and powerful as it thinks it is. We have a lot of tension, a lot of conflict, but the world's not going to end tomorrow. We go through cycles. And this cycles of craziness was felt during the Industrial Revolution. It was felt during the Great Depression. It was felt during World War I, World War II. It felt like this during Vietnam. Hell, it felt like this during Korea or Iraq. It felt like this during the American Revolution. It felt like this during the Civil War. It felt like this during the Spanish-American War. It felt like this during the French-Indian Wars. Conflict is normal. And a new beginning is always refreshing. It's scary, it's terrifying, and we don't like change. But change essentially is what we are as the human race. And yes, some powers may fall, some powers may rise, and the world in the face of civilization will change. But in the end, we will still be here. What will you be known for? What will your why be? I will tell you the last thing, and then I'm going to go. is every single day I do this show, I learn something about myself. I am better than who I've been. I have gotten away. Amber was right. I wish she was still on because the show has changed. And I forgot some things. And the things are this, is that value can never enrich somebody else's life unless it enriches you. And I could do these short little stints and TikTok videos and shit like that, but that doesn't enrich my life. It doesn't teach me anything. You know what that is? That's Romper Room. That's Pac-Man. That's Barbie. That shit's beneath me. And I'm still going to do some of it because it's pretty funny. But what isn't is getting into a conversation like this, doing a show like this, breaking it down, really having a conversation, discussing it with the viewers of what we're afraid of, what we think could happen, what has history told us, what does the future hold for us based upon our past? Because that is the one thing that will always be unequivocal. What is past is prologue. That is the guarantee of life. It's always true. What is past is prologue. It will happen again. The Egyptians knew this. The slaves knew this. The peasants, the peons, the serfs, they all knew this. Is that eventually governments fall, but the people always remain. And little pockets of history are all around us of people who could not be destroyed. The Native Americans, Somalians, the Russian peasants, the Celtics. There are pockets of right now, the Uyghurs. There are people being systematically eradicated from Earth, and yet they will still remain. It is very hard to kill an individual. It is nearly impossible to wipe out an entire civilization, especially when that civilization is armed and intelligent and educated and realize that the fight is not amongst the people who are standing shoulder to shoulder and will be put in the same cages. It is the people who are trying to put us in those cages, mentally, physically. It's the people who hold back medicine that can truly help us. It's people who put preservatives in food and don't tell us. It's people who spray chemicals all over our food and don't tell us that it causes cancer because honestly, it doesn't matter. It's about the cars that get in accidents and have a bad airbag. And then the company just does the math and does an equation and says, you know what? It's cheaper for us to handle lawsuits and do a full factory recall. Those are the people we don't trust. Those are the people who the pitchforks and the torches are meant for. And history will repeat itself. And when those people rise up to too much, the people will take the power back. And it's happened in France. It's happened in South America. We've seen it in Turkey. You've seen it in our own country. We have a job to do. And the job to do is to find your why. When do we begin? Why do we begin? That's a better question. Read the book. Do me a favor, folks. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. We'll be back tomorrow. Leroy won't be here. Leroy has 100 and some odd degree temperature. He's sick as a dog. He needs, it's happening in Germany. It's happening all over the world. It's going to happen in Iran. Iran's going to kick off in the next 5 years. Trust me. Iran is going to overthrow the Shah and the Ayatollah. Yes, it will. Argentina is a good example. Yes. Guys, it's happening everywhere. Uno mas. Every single year, we get to overthrow the government. And we don't raise a sword or a weapon in defense. We simply vote. The worst lie told to you is that your vote doesn't matter. And we have been talking about it for 3.5 years. And Republicans, and specifically the MAGA movement, have been telling you, lying at the side of their mouth, that your vote doesn't matter. And that it's all rigged. Yet they're telling you all right now to get out in the polls and vote. Don't you find that funny? You must vote. It is your sacred duty and your civic duty as a patriot and a citizen of this country to vote. And I don't care if you vote for president. Get out there and vote your state and local, or get out there and run. If there's nobody inspiring you, then you go out and do it. The only thing that stops you from succeeding is your own self-doubt and your own lack of confidence. You've got a voice, use it. Find your niche. Find the thing that's going to make you make an impact. We're out of here, folks. Appreciate you. Go do something productive, damn it. Go buy that book, Charles Crownhammer. If you need another book, I'll give you another one after that. I've already read it. God bless. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. Thanks for everyone who bought something tonight. I just love y'all. Love you. And the people who donated, once again, I'm just going to say it, owner@don'tunfriendme.com. If you want to donate to the show, please do. It's not required. The show will never cost you a damn thing. If you can, great. If you can't, whatever. I still love you. I'll see you tomorrow with a recorded show and a new live show. God bless.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.